Hey everyone, Obi-Wan Kenobi season is over, and this is our recap of it here with our amazing filmmaker Eduardo Organista, who was on set for that amazing series. With us is Coulter from NIC Partners INC. We're gonna start by giving it like a rating over 10. So each one of us is gonna like write their rating on a piece of paper, and we're gonna share it with y'all. So 10 would be one of the best seasons you've ever watched on TV, and 1 would be one of the worst, and 5 would be average. And Mac, you can't go above 10. I'm sorry. And you can put a 0.5. So if you're stuck between, I don't know, 7 and 8, you can put 7.5.
All right, I'm ready.
All right. Let's reveal. 1, 2, 3, go.
No. There he goes.
What is that? What is it?
8.4. Oh,
8.4.
Nice. Sick. 6.5.
Yeah.
All right, then. What is a 10?
I expected that.
What did you put,
10?
Mac? What did
I
you
put
put,
8.
Mac?
I put 8.7.
Okay.
Yeah. You put a
Oh.
6.5. I gotta hear what your 10 is. I gotta have a reference point.
I mean, 10 for me, I would say Mandalorian season 2.
Wow.
It's a great season.
I agree. Yeah. I mean, that's pretty fair, actually. That's pretty good. I actually just went back and watched the Luke Skywalker hallway scene because I was trying to see if they were playing his theme or one of the traditional movie themes in that part, and they weren't. But they also weren't playing one of the traditional. I thought they were going to play Duel of the Fates for the Obi-Wan Kenobi their Vader fight, and they didn't. So I was like, okay, that makes sense.
Too obvious.
Way too obvious. Way too obvious.
Yeah.
So anyway.
Do you want me to go first, or?
Yeah, please.
Okay, yeah. Why it's a 6.5? 6.5. Okay, first of all, we have to look at everything, right? 6 episodes. We can't just be like, it had a good beginning, good ending.
Of course.
It's a great season. We have to look at everything. We have 6 episodes. Episode 4 was close to a 0 for me. I've already talked about it. We're not gonna re-talk about everything in episode 4, but remember, if you're talking about one episode out of 6, that's 16-17% of the whole season. If it was like a 20 episode season and one of them was like, okay, I'm not gonna watch that, it's not gonna really affect it. But when you're talking about episode 4, not only was it bad, it was a bad episode, I feel, in a crucial part of the storytelling. Now you might tell me all parts are crucial. Yes, all parts are crucial. But what happened at episode 4 is that, let's get back to basic screenwriting. The middle part is where you expect crisis to happen. You expect everything to go crazy. And you're trying to make it as hard as possible for your protagonist, which is Obi-Wan Kenobi in our case. In episode 4, we talked about how things were getting too convenient for him. Now, okay, you might tell me, was that enough for 6.5? No, but I'm gonna talk about what else. But if you look at episode 4, I don't think you can go above an 8.5 if you just look at episode 4, because it's 16-17% of the whole series. If you give it a 0, you're already topped at 8.5. That's it. Doesn't make sense. Yes. So why do I go from 8.5 to 6.5? I felt Obi-Wan didn't get enough attention throughout the series. He was the main character, but it was giving me this non-smoothness in the jumps between him and Leia and Reva. It wasn't clear for me that he was the protagonist. Yes, the other characters should get enough time, but the way it was done, I feel it wasn't the best way it could have been done. I feel there were like times where Obi-Wan just disappeared. It was like the whole focus was either on Leia or on Reva. I didn't buy that too much. I feel that Evan McGregor's character choice as an actor wasn't the best, and we talked about it. Yes, he was broken at the beginning. Yes, we expect him to change during, and at the end, we saw this big change, because that's what the character arc is. You need a change at the end. But I felt that this change happened too late in the series. I felt that you should have given me earlier than that your willingness to be active and to be the leader and to be the one who calls the shots. In episode 3, he was very passive still. He was looking too afraid. It was still Taylor, the one making the shots. Episode 4 was so bad. It was too convenient for him. It felt that the episode was made for him to stay passive. Episode 5, he didn't get enough attention, I feel. It was more of Reva's episode, if that makes sense. Episode 6 is when the change happened. That was too late for me. I think the change even happened when he was in the hall, not when before that. You can't give me a character arc that changes, that have the significant change I'm looking for right before the season ends. Yeah, that's why I give it a 6.5. Go ahead, Mac.
I wouldn't be so critical of it just because obviously I really enjoyed the series. I give it an 8.7 simply because I can't give it a 10. I think a 10 for me, story wise, probably like a mid-season of like Breaking Bad or Sons of Anarchy. We're talking like cinema, or not cinema, but television, like peak television. Maybe like season 12 through 14 of Law and Order, like peak TV. That's right. That's where I put my 10. So I try to save like a 10 spot for woes who truly deserve it. And while I love Kenobi, it's not going to win an Oscar, and that's it might. It actually just might. So let me not say that out loud. I think one of the things that draws me towards stories and will always motivate me to invest in a story is going to be characters and how those characters develop. I love characters. I feel like characters are where the story really lies. Even if you have a great narrative, a great plot, like those characters delivering the lines and acting these things out and pushing the plot forward, being the vehicle. That's where a lot of the power comes from me. And I feel like Kenobi really beats that spot. They beat the character spot up. Star Wars as a whole does a very good job of providing interesting characters. And I feel like Kenobi does not even begin to miss that. I find that Reva was interesting. I find that Obi-Wan Kenobi was very faithful to the franchise, as well as like his character development in preparation for the original trilogy. I found Darth Vader to be absolutely delightful. Having read all the comics so far for the Darth Vader comics, the Star Wars comics, I love Darth Vader, always have. And he was true to form. I even like new characters like Reva. At first, I was a little intimidated because I'm like, new Force user in the Skywalker saga timeline. Like, well, okay, she's dead. She's just dead. Yeah, that's been my prediction the entire season. She's dead. But now seeing her progress to be another version of a victim of Anakin, like that's powerful. That's a connection to Obi-Wan. It does propel him forward. Even leaving baby Luke for 1.5 scenes, like awesome. Thank you. You're a little kid, don't get involved, just do what you're told. He's a little stubborn, but like some traces of here and there, but it's not his story, so we don't have to get a whole story, a whole episode dedicated to him. I love little baby Leia. Move over baby Grogu, like that's a hilarious and spunky character. I think an 8.7 is a good rating for this because it keeps it from being 10. It's not really even a 9, but it just rocks. It's just if you say you didn't like the Kenobi show, I think you're lying to me. I just have to assume you didn't watch it or you didn't want to like it. But definitely not a 6.
I definitely understand the 6.5 rating 100%, by the way. Like I really do. And I do agree that episode 4 was a little bit one of the weaker ones. It's impossible for me to give it a 0 because it moved the story forward, even if the characters themselves were and the plot devices weren't fully there. And I was thinking about this too, is like at the end of the day, what I think about when I look at this series is how did it make me feel? Because we can, obviously, I'm a writer, so I completely understand, story arcs. I completely understand character relationships that are supposed to be really important in television, as they should be. I can really understand these weird plot devices that are used and the conveniences that sometimes takes me out of it,
Yeah.
because it has, I'm not saying it hasn't, but I sometimes just think about like, how did it make me feel as a fan? Because most of these people who are watching it are not filmmakers. They're just fans. And here's the thing: Star Wars fans are so divisive within themselves. They either absolutely trash Star Wars because they break canon, or they break this, they break that, or Reva's this and that, and while other people are like, doesn't matter, who directs it. If a mouse directs it, I'm gonna love Star Wars. um, and I kind of it's very fascinating to me to just psychologically how that works.
Mm-hmm.
And but at the end of the day, I think when we talk about television or movies, like how did it make you feel? Like at the end of the day, when we were kids, we didn't think about plot points or anything like that. We just watched the movie and we were like wowed or like kind of bored, you know. And I'm not trying to undermine the necessity for criticizing story. We should definitely do that. But I think giving it for me 8.4 could have been an 8.5. Honestly, I was just like, oh, maybe I'll just give it an 8.4. I was more like, how did it make me feel? Like, cause I'm like with you, Mac. Like a 10, obviously that's a tall order. You got your Breaking Bads. I mean, Peaky Blinders for me is also very close to a 10. You know, Sopranos. You got a lot of shows that are very, very, very much in the conversation for 10. So, but man, I mean, and for the audience, yes, there's a little bias because I worked on the show. I'm not going to get away from that, but at the same time, it's like it is for me at least. At the end of the day, is how did it make me feel, and it made me feel great. Overall, the show overall made me feel really good. There's a real thing about fan service, you know, which is very real, but that doesn't mean there's something wrong with it. You know, sometimes you know we want to get away from our world and our realities, and sometimes that it just takes a little bit of fan service, you know, that we want to just eat up and chew up. And especially when it's Star Wars, like, are you kidding me? One of the biggest IPs ever in history. It's so hard to get it right, even though many people think it's so easy to do it. And you know, it's very hard to run a show, and it's very hard to, even though it seemed very intuitive, if you're a writer who understands character arcs and stuff like that, you're under a lot of pressure to write these things. And um, you know, I give them credit for trying, you know, and um, I just I just thought it made me feel good, you know.
Yeah, I agree.
I understand the feeling argument because if you look at film critique research, most of it is based on understanding that feeling that the
Right.
viewers basically feel, because that feeling is that what decides whether you like something or not. Why I gave it a 6.5, because I also have the feeling
Yeah, no, that's
that
perfect.
it's
No.
a 6.5. Now, when I
Yeah.
say 6.5, it's not necessarily bad, because as I told you, 5 is average. This is
Above average.
mid-tier, above average. So it's something that I enjoyed. I had
Well,
a
it's
good
just
time
fine.
watching. It was, but it's not something, to be honest, it's not something I would probably watch again. I would probably
Sure,
watch
yeah.
a couple scenes of the fighting, but is that something I would, oh, I'm gonna have a Sunday night where I'm gonna binge watch this with my friend? No, I won't do that. You understand what I mean? So it's something that if let's say I had nothing to watch at the beginning and I was like, okay, there's a new episode of Obi-Wan Kenobi coming. Okay, I would sit and watch it and just have a good time. But that was it. I wouldn't try to give myself the
So
Yeah.
so then a 6.5 is you wouldn't watch Kenobi season 1 again, but you would watch a Kenobi season 2.
exactly.
Okay.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And that's
Uh,
very, very fair. I honestly, and to kind of tie into that too, is like that's part of how you feel. Like if you that's your feeling, that's extremely valid, you know. But you know, sometimes sometimes the Star Wars branding just takes over in my brain in a weird way.
I don't know. I'm
And
not. I'm not. I'm not saying you are being more biased because you are a
no.
Star Wars
I'm
fan.
I'm
I'm not
telling
saying you are
myself
less
that.
biased. Yeah,
No, I'm telling myself
yeah.
that. Like I'm just like I know. The force is like right here, literally.
And I
But
understand
yeah,
also your argument when you were talking about the immense pressure that the writers go through, and you know, for every piece of art that's out there, we can spend hours just giving
sure.
excuses and all of that. In the end, what we as critiques, we just take what we get. You know, I can spend hours researching the problems they faced on set or any other problems they faced. I mean, I'm sorry, but I'm just when I critique something, I just critique what's in front of me, and you know
Yeah,
that's life. That's everything. That's
absolutely.
that's sports. If you got sick during the finals game, you lose. It's there's nothing much you can do about it. So I feel that while I understand all of these issues, when I critique something, I just take it at face value. Going with it. Mac, you have something to say?
No, I agree. I think it's fair. I think critique is important, especially in the entertainment industry. I have like I'll keep it simple, of course. I can condense it, but especially in game design, critique is very important because it's how we get our feedback from our end users. For instance, there's like a difference between a critique and advice and criticism. It's like a critique is a mixture of advice and criticism. Advice is me just telling you, hey, here's something I'm telling you. Use this information to better whatever you're working on. You didn't ask me for it, I'm just giving it to you. But if I'm just using criticism, that's just a YouTube comment. Man, I wish this show had more lightsaber fights. Press send. Like, that's just a criticism. I'm not offering any solution. I'm not making anything better. I'm just criticizing. But if I'm offering critique, I'm offering a criticism and then some advice. That's you know what I'm saying? That's a criticism. That's me hoping to better by pointing out an insufficient, you know, saying something that's not really sufficient in providing the best or the most optimal story. So like, I think it's perfectly fair to critique a story, especially if you love the story, especially from fans. I love when fans of the story, people who actually like Star Wars, again, by the way, who when they critique, because I'm like, oh, well, you care, like you're looking to better the story altogether. If you like only 3 out of 11 Star Wars movies, you might not like Star Wars. You might just like the original trilogy. Not indirectly either of you, of course, but like there are a lot of people who feel this way. And so I'm like, oh, so when you come in, you start critiquing these things. Are you critiquing or are you just criticizing? And so it's interesting to see like what the levels of people's mindsets when they come into judging these things and to critiquing them. Because it's judgment, but like it's fair and it should be welcome, especially from the production side. You should be looking at all the feedback you can to see what they feel. I just read the articles this morning after this episode dropped from Kathleen Kennedy and them talking about how they want to drop or they said a season 2 of Obi-Wan of the Kenobi series is not out of the question. Is basically the gist of what the article said. And I was like, well, obviously it's not. People were raving about this. As much flack as we've heard from this last month and some change. People love this series. People were looking forward to this. It trends on Twitter every Wednesday. Top 3 on Twitter every Wednesday. So like it's clearly, and not just my own For Me page, like number 1 in North America. So it's clearly doing something right.
Eddie, you want to say something?
Yeah, no, I was just gonna say one thing. Is like I feel like if there is another Obi-Wan, it would need to come years ahead. Because what I'm concerned about is 2 things. One is Star Wars fatigue, and then 2 is not allowing other stories to really blossom. You know, a new generation of stories that definitely need to be told. Not that we should forget about these stories per se, but like I think definitely resources should be put in, and having like that would be super necessary. I think to kind of launch the Star Wars brand a little bit further. You know, have a group of diverse writers in the writers' room, and I want a Star Wars show to be as good as Breaking Bad. You know, I want it to be just really in depth, and I think having new stories would help. So if there is going to be another Obi-Wan Kenobi, I hope that they wait a little bit and not jump the gun because it's popular. And I know it's kind of hard to catch fire twice, but I think, or catch lightning twice, but I think it's really important that we let other stories blossom, and then we can't forget about the movies that are also going to be coming out. So I'm worried about Star Wars fatigue. As much as I love Star Wars, I'm worried that most of the audience are going to be so inundated with so much content that I'm just going to be like, I don't know where to start. So I'm excited for Star Wars because I'm so glad it is what it is, and I'm just hoping that the stories get better and better.
That's good. I wanted to talk a little bit about what was my point. I forgot. Anybody want to talk about something? We have like 5 more
Yeah,
minutes.
I do. I want to talk about the comparisons of episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, and 6 with episodes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the Skywalker saga themselves. It was like it just they did this. This is intentional. This is clearly by design. Episode 1, we go to Tatooine. We rescue a Force-sensitive Skywalker. Like, if that's not a Phantom Menace, I don't know what is. Episode 2, we have a Blade Runner detective style. Obi-Wan's rolling through some crazy lit up city. We saw this literally in the Clone Wars. It was like memed about. That was one of the biggest critiques. Is like, oh, this guy's restaurant. Obi-Wan Kenobi's in here asking questions like a detective. Yes, he's a Jedi. That's what they do. He has his people on the ground. He finds his information. He goes and hunts down bad guys. Episode 3 is a duel. It's a clash, and literally the same way Vader is burned in the fire, Obi-Wan is burned in this fire in episode 3. If that's not Revenge of the Sith, I don't know what is. Episode 4, we have a rescue mission all over again. They are literally rescuing somebody from out of a jail cell. They're actually quite literally rescuing Leia again in this episode before episode 4, A New Hope comes out. it's every episode. What's number 5 then? Barely escaping from the bad guys, and I mean barely getting away to the point where you're making sacrifices. They didn't get away in episode 5, Revenge or The Empire Strikes Back. Han Solo got captured and put in carbonite. Luke gets his hand cut off. Like, it's not a good look. The team doesn't come out on top, but like they do get away. And then episode 6, I mean,
Yeah.
Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars. Yeah, Return of the Jedi is my favorite Star Wars movie, and I think it's not a surprise that episode 6 of Kenobi is also my favorite episode of Kenobi. That's just, you have your closure, you have your finalization, you have this culmination of all these events and all these storylines, and the Force itself leading you to this one result in this timeline. I think that a lot of people in these movies get so wrapped up in the Skywalker saga because they get wrapped up in these Skywalkers themselves, and they see them as the titular characters. And they are the titular characters, but they're not the only characters that matter. That's one of the beauties of Star Wars, and I said this last time, is that they're characters. I love powerful characters. And so when you have all these characters that are relevant and they have their own piece and their own part to play. Han Solo was never a Jedi. Han Solo was never held a lightsaber except when he cut open that one animal on Hoth. Han Solo's never fought anybody with his fists unless he's knocking somebody out and running away. Like, he's not doing all these crazy feats because he's a smuggler who is then enlisted to become a general, who then stops and runs off and goes back to smuggling. Like, but he has a major roles to play. He's Kylo Ren's father. He helps fight off Vader so Luke can shoot the Death Star down. Like, he's met Leia's husband, or I guess ex-husband. But like, they're powerful characters who have very relevant roles to play. That's how you make good characters. That's how you make this web of intrigue and have all these different parts that are still relevant to the audience ourselves as we're watching. We want to see what these characters are doing, even if they're not Force blowing down glaciers or pushing mountains over. Like, it doesn't matter. Just setting off a thermal detonator and be like, "May the Force be with you." That's a powerful moment. Thank you for that, Tala. May the Force be with her. Overall, I love this story. I thought Kenobi was great. The whole franchise. I mean, the whole series. I probably will watch it again. I mean, obviously, and even if they did do a season 2, which I don't think they do need to do it. I've brought it up twice now, but they don't need to do it. They don't. This is good. We did it. We got it right here. Bam, smacked it in. 6 episodes. We're done. But if they did, I'd watch it too.
Eddie, do you want to go ahead with your final statement?
I just can't wait to see what's coming up. I know my friends are working on these other shows. We got Ahsoka. We have another Alias show. Obviously, it was called Grammar Rodeo, but it's called The Skeleton Crew, which is turning out to be very exciting. So I'm really stoked for those things to come. And obviously Mandalorian 3, which is going to come out next year as well. So stoked.
That'd be cool.
That was exactly the way I hoped it would end, because everyone, you will see us again for Mandalorian 3 in February. I hope we'll all be alive and we'll meet again to review it. Quite exciting, gonna be. Yeah, thank you everyone for staying with us for these 4 or 5 weeks, and we'll see you all for the Mandalorian 3. Thank you, Eddie.
Yeah.